Now, this morning, a location in the Melbourne suburb of Brunswick has become the first place in Victoria to be hooked up to the national broadband network.
Yesterday, opposition communications spokesman Malcolm Turnbull said the opposition could deliver the NBN for less than the government. Communications Minister Stephen Conroy joins us now from Brunswick. Minister, good morning. These rollouts continue, but in the areas already connected, we're hearing that there are only 50 active customers out of 6,000 homes. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement.
Well, that's a complete misunderstanding of what we're doing in these trial sites. When we turned the network on in Armidale, when we turned it on in Kiama, when we turn it on here in Brunswick, we're only allowing a limited number of customers. Not everybody who wants to be on is going to be on over the next couple of months. And we'll be turning it on and opening it up for everybody from October. But we said right at the beginning of all of this that we'd be trialling a limited number of customers in the first release sites to ensure that all the systems work, to ensure all the billings systems work between NBN and the retail service providers. So we're actually haven't thrown the system open for anybody who wants to be on it yet. So this argument about take-up, which continues to be run by those who are opposed to the national broadband network, ignores the reality that the Telstra deal we struck between Telstra, the NBN and the government ensures that all fixed lines in the fibre footprint, so everywhere in the 93% that wants a fixed line, it will be a piece of NBN fibre. We are cutting off the copper, we are closing down the copper network. So arguments about take-ups here in Brunswick or in Armidale completely misunderstand what we're doing at the moment on the national broadband network.
So are you saying that when you do throw it open that there is enough pent-up demand that number of 50 at the moment will significantly increase?
Well, we were targeting around 200 per site over the first couple of months. So we are building up slowly to ensure that the systems network structures, that the billing systems, all of those things work so that we're ready for when we throw the switch to open up the network for competition to start. But we're only rolling it out progressively, and the deal with Telstra means that we close down the copper network. If you have a fixed line to your home in the future, it will only be a piece of NBN fibre.
Minister, as we mentioned, Malcolm Turnbull outlined the Coalition's alternative yesterday. He said that if they were to win government, they would keep the infrastructure in place but do their alternative at less than a third of the cost of the current project with a mix of technology and open it up to the private sector. Is that not a compelling alternative?
It's not an alternative at all for a number of reasons. Firstly, when Malcolm Turnbull was asked about the cost of the network, he said it's not my job to cost this. Plan, it's Joe Hockey's job. Quite extraordinary. A shadow minister says it's not his job to cost his own plan. That's the first point. Secondly, if Malcolm Turnbull had been in charge of building the Sydney Harbour Bridge in 1927, he'd have said it should only be one lane. This is about building for the future. This is about building a network that will see us through the next 50 years, not the next 5 days or the next 12 months. Malcolm Turnbull is locking us into the past. The national broadband network is about future-proofing Australia into the future. Yes, you can build a cheaper network. Yes, you can build a network that is not as quick and not as able to deliver for the future. That's what Malcolm Turnbull's putting forward, building a one-lane Sydney Harbour Bridge.
But it is a more attractive option for those people who don't need those high speeds, isn't it? Because it's offering access at a lower price without the, as some people see it, unnecessary high speeds.
No, there's about 3 things you said wrong there. You shouldn't just read out what Malcolm Turnbull says at the press club. What you saw was him say, oh, people can't afford the national broadband network. What you're seeing in the marketplace today, Dodo, well-known national company, said they will have prices below $40. Another company, Exetel from Tasmania, national mainland price, $35. You're already seeing cheap and competitive prices from the early companies. There's going to be more competition for retail consumers that's going to kick off from October, and you'll see even more competition driving prices lower throughout the country. Malcolm Turnbull will not answer the following question. There'll be 500,000, 500,000 Australians using the national broadband network at the time of the next election. Can he guarantee their prices aren't going to go up under his new plan? because we have a cross-subsidy, and Malcolm Turnbull has rejected the cross-subsidy. So all those people using the network, their prices will go up under Malcolm Turnbull's plan to sell off the NBN.
Minister, just on another matter relating to your portfolio, the cuts to the ABC arts programs have been made citing financial pressure in part. Are you concerned about these cuts, and will it have an impact on the triennial funding considerations?
Well, obviously, triennial funding is up this year. It'll be considered through the normal cabinet processes and an announcement made in the budget. And so we won't be commenting on a daily basis on what we could or could not be doing around ABC funding. But I am surprised to see the claims that the financial situation in the ABC is what's behind this. I would say they haven't had any cuts in funds. These are programs that have been going a long time. But I will be seeking information from Mark Scott and the management of the ABC around their statements that there's financial issues led to the closing of these programs.
Do you think those statements are disingenuous?
Well, as I said, there's been no cut in funding to the ABC that I'm aware of. They had a 3-year funding package put in place. It's coming up for new round of funding into next year, but as far as I'm aware, there's been absolutely no cuts in funding at all from the government to the ABC.
When will you seek those meetings, and will you also be discussing whether the decisions are in keeping with the ABC's charter, because some opponents to the decision have suggested the decision is not in keeping with the ABC's charter?
Well, look, the government's got in place an independent corporation, independent of government as it should be, that makes the decisions about programming. Yes, the government puts in place the charter. There are many different ways for programs to be delivered. There's been complaints in the past that some programs have been reduced, whereas other parts of the ABC, perhaps online podcasts, have increased the amount of coverage in some areas, whether there are online contributions from the ABC. So there's always a mix of issues, and I'll be asking those questions of the ABC in the coming weeks to find out exactly what's behind this particular situation. But many times in the past, programs have been phased out and newer offerings on newer platforms have been phased in. So has the charter commitment been met? There's always a lively debate about that.
And just on another matter, the Prime Minister, as we know, had a meeting with News Limited editors this week. Did you send with her a list of complaints to raise?
Look, I think you've just got to read the front page of the Daily Telegraph each day to see that the Daily Telegraph's coverage lacks balance, is biased against the government, has been pushing a case for a change of government. And in a democracy, the Daily Telegraph is entitled to its view and it's entitled to push a biased view. But in a democracy, I'm entitled to stand up and say the Daily Telegraph is biased. You've also previously said that that paper in particular is pushing for a regime change. Do you know what was said at the meeting? No, look, I've only had a very brief chat with the Prime Minister. As always, it was a private and confidential discussion, so I won't be canvassing any of the issues that were canvassed there. Ultimately, that's a matter for the Prime Minister and executives of News Limited. Have you had any discussions with editors or executives since you made those comments? Since I made those comments? Yes. About the regime change. I haven't met or ever spoken with the editor of the Daily Telegraph. I have recently met the new editor of The Australian, and apart from that, I haven't had any discussions with any of the other News Limited tabloids. Stephen Conroy, thank you. Thanks very much.